Girls Last Tour is a post-apocalyptic anime, and assuming you knew nothing else about the show, you might expect an action anime where characters in a post-apocalyptic setting have to survive against zombies or some other similar kind of threat. But in addition to being a post-apocalyptic anime, Girls Last Tour is pretty unique in that it's also a generally pleasant moe slice-of-life anime. I even admit that when I watched it with a friend way back when it first came out, I wasn't really expecting this type of show. Or even if it was going to be a slice of life, I thought there might be some terrifying twist like in School Live. When me and my friend first watched through the first couple episodes, that twist never came. We were both initially a bit disappointed by this, so they ended up dropping the show. However, I was so intrigued by the world and art direction that I kept going, and I'm glad I did. Being a mostly pleasant slice of life in a post-apocalypse is exactly what I have come to feel makes the show stand out and feel interesting. None of us get to choose the world we live in. We might be able to have some, hopefully positive, effects on the world, but at the end of the day, we're all just human. It's actually pretty hopeful then to see a scenario where two characters who live in what you would think would be a hopeless world manage to get by through enjoying each other's company and finding simple things they enjoy to overcome their environment. Most episodes consist of just our two main protagonists, Chito and Yuri, traveling through the ruins which used to be a multi-layered city. It's implied that these characters don't know much more about the city than we do as the viewers. And because of this, we get to understand this world by learning with the characters, as they are curious and often have discussions about how things used to work, speculating about the things they run into. They also tend to get into some philosophical discussions, which I'm a big fan of, as always had a bit of an interest in philosophy myself. Honestly, as strange as it sounds, I've had some similar conversations with friends to the ones that Chito and Yuri have. While watching the show, I found myself fascinated by just how interesting the show is able to remain throughout its runtime, without constantly feeling the need to add new characters unnecessarily. Of course, they do add new characters at some points in the show. In episode 3, they encounter Kanazawa, a man who is also traveling the ruins of the city in order to create a map of the city. In a lesser post-apocalyptic show, they would have met this man and he would have slowly gained their trust, only to backstab them for resources or something like that later. But that gets a bit less exciting after you've seen it in like 10 other shows. Of course, they initially distrust him, but they quickly realize that he's a generally friendly guy and is just trying to travel and explore the same as them. In the episode, he says his maps that he works on are what he lives for, to such an extent that he states he'd die if he lost them. Of course, without civilization, there isn't much to do with a bunch of maps, meaning that he's really only making these maps for himself. It's his way of finding purpose. In a lot of ways, I kind of relate to this myself. I would say this is why I make YouTube videos. Later in this episode, Kanazawa nearly does get himself killed. After his maps fall off the side of an elevator, valuing the maps as much as his own life, he tries to dive after them before being caught by the girls, who pull him up. He becomes depressed, feeling that he's lost his reason to live, but Yuri tells him that you don't always need a reason. Sometimes there are just nice things to experience. After all, look at the city lights. They are beautiful, aren't they? I'm not gonna lie, I cried the first time I watched this. I feel that this one beautiful moment where these characters acknowledge that sometimes the simple things can be enough of a reason to live is probably one of the most important moments for the themes of the show. It's something that's stated plainly and beautifully in this episode, but is demonstrated throughout the series. The episode just before this features a moment where Chito and Yuri are seemingly in a horrible situation, being stuck in a snowstorm, but they come across a pipe containing hot water that they use to create a makeshift hot tub bath. The show is full of little moments where these characters find something to enjoy in whatever situation they're in. By the end of episode 3, Kanazawa sets off on his own once again. Giving the girls a camera as a parting gift, he goes off to start over on creating his maps again. Even if he needs to start over, he can always rebuild. I'm glad to have gotten myself into a bit better of a place mentally to be able to make these videos again. I missed working on them. But I know that no matter what happens to this YouTube channel, whether I lose it or anything else, I can always rebuild it or build something new. But until then, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.